So check it out. I'm going to teach you what I know that helped me finish 52 songs in 13 months after many years of maybe finishing 3 to 5 songs a year. And this was even after I knew most of the techniques and I still wasn't finishing songs. I was training students who were like kicking my ass, which I mean, I was super happy for them, but I was just having to ask myself, how is it that I know this information, or in many cases, know more information than my students, and they're going off and doing killer things and making lots of music. And why am I still not finishing as much music as I wanted to? So that was an interesting question for me. And it's something that I felt I had to solve in order to be congruent with being a teacher. You know, I don't want to just be a person that helps other people finish their music. I want to be able to teach you from experience and learn the things that will, you know, help actually take people to the next level. I've had so many students that have spent, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars on, you know, the corporate training courses, and they learn a lot of stuff, but it doesn't really help most of them actually finish more tunes. It's just they've got a lot more ideas and things in their head, but they don't have like a process or way to kind of, you know, figure things out. So yeah, if you guys are here, if you guys are all producers here, I'm assuming, let me know how long you've been producing and how long you've been playing in Ableton. Kind of curious where you guys are at, what's happening, how I can help specifically. And, you know, I've got kind of a little slideshow action here, but I'm going to try this time to not use it quite as much, just because it can be a little stiff doing this sort of stuff, unless you would prefer. If you guys prefer to just have a screen up, you know, something like this sort of action, you know, we can do it like this as well. And I'll switch into here on occasion, unless you want me to do the whole presentation sort of like this. If you've got a pen and paper, you might want to pull that out, get ready to take some notes, and feel free to ask me any questions. And in certain parts during this training, I will definitely be answering those questions. At the end of this training, if you stick around, there's going to be 2 bonuses for you. All right. One, I'm going to share my best-selling book. Let me show you what it looks like here. This book right here. It's kind of funny. My shirt and the book have the same colors. Interesting. I'm going to share this book with you guys for free. It's a bestseller on Amazon. I'll show you there. Lots and lots and lots of 5-star reviews. In fact, I don't really have anything below a 4-star review. It's pretty incredible. You guys with me? Can you see and hear me? Are you guys ready? You guys got to wake up. You know, if you guys don't wake up, I can't wake up. So yeah, this is going to be very interactive. So when you interact, then I will move forward. Otherwise, you know, I can play 80s videos and stuff if you want. It's all good. So yeah, a couple things. Let me know how long you've been producing. Let me know your current challenges. How long have you been producing? What's your current challenge? Stephen Pluck, welcome. Gim here. What's Gim? Stephen Bennett, awesome. Yeah, so let me know you're here. Let me know how long you've been producing, and let me know your challenges, just so I can get those kind of in my head. So as we go through this, I can try to address some of those issues as well. I like to keep these things interactive, even though I kind of have a basic script, you know, on what has worked for me. Okay, so I'd say it's about 30 seconds behind. So when I ask a question, you guys should be able to respond within like 30 seconds or something like that. Steven says, off and on for a few years, mostly DJ gigs. Haven't had time to dive in like I want to. Okay, so great. You know, you're starting off with a DJ. Hopefully, I would assume that you have good taste in music. You know, that's usually the precursor for DJing, and having that can really help you sort out what works on a dance floor. Stephen Plex says, I'm a beginner, really. Okay, great. You're a beginner. Well, this way you don't have to undo a lot of your mistakes. You know, you can learn right from the start and make the correct decisions and stuff like that. So that's awesome. Craig says, I often struggle to complete tracks because I usually find myself at what feels like a dead end and not quite sure how to move forward. All right, Craig, I'm wondering where where you find yourself at a dead end, with your 8-bar loop or somewhere in the middle, or do you get caught up trying to get a groove that you're happy with? Where do you get stuck? And I'll just stick around here while I'm getting more of your answers here, figuring out how long you guys have been producing, what your current challenges are, see if you guys have heard of me or know anything about my story and all that sort of stuff. So I think some of this stuff will be really powerful for you guys. Even intermediate producers, learn something here. So yeah. So keep those challenges coming. Keep the comments coming. And then what I can do is I'll go through some of these questions and challenges and help you guys through this training. All right. Steven says, DJ for 20 years, had Ableton for a while. You could do 8-bar loops, but you struggle with the arrangement. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Totally get it. That's real common. Chris says, around 10 years, battle self-motivating to get arranging in full song, as I get most of the reward from getting the loop going. The technicality of finishing songs isn't nearly as enjoyable. Plus, I'm too self-critical. Kind of interesting, huh? You've kind of like really defined your own issue. See, sometimes, well, for every producer, you have to decide whether you're going to be a sound creator, someone who just buys loads of equipment and makes loads of sounds. If you're going to be a groove creator, just someone that makes 8-bar grooves, or someone who actually finishes tunes. Finishing tunes is not fun in the beginning because you're not in the habit of doing it. So I'll just get into this a little bit. And this could play into some of the training, but finishing songs is a habit, right? And the problem with any sort of artistic skill is the things that you repeat, because there was a time where just making a beat was, that was challenging enough for you. That seemed boring to you as well. The only reason it wasn't as boring is because everything was really new to you. So you weren't setting yourself too many expectations in the beginning. But as time goes on, you have higher expectations. You've got, the thing about it is your taste in music is always going to be beyond your skill level. As your skill level comes up, your taste in music goes up as well. So you're always going to be kind of chasing a little bit. But the thing that you're getting to, that it's no longer fun after you make the groove, is super, super common. And the reason for that is because your brain doesn't like to actually do real thinking. It likes to run on autopilot. You basically have a certain amount of energy on reserve that you can use, a certain amount of thinking energy. And your brain, to try to protect that energy, tries to do everything on autopilot. So when you force it to do something new, it kind of shuts down on you. And it kind of puts these feelings out to you that this isn't right. I shouldn't be doing this. This doesn't feel right. Your body will do all these sort of tricks. So you'll find yourself wanting to do dishes before you finish your song, right? That's how much you're programmed to not do new things and not to think new thoughts. But the thing about it is, if you can push yourself through that period, then it will become a habit. And anything that becomes a habit, the brain will all of a sudden fully accept as part of its automatic running program. And once something becomes automatic, you can pretty much go through a whole song intuitively and not have to overthink so many things. So your brain kind of puts that in your reserve. Any new skill is going to be difficult, but when you do it consistently, it tells your brain, oh, this is who we are now. And then it puts that information in reserve. And every time you come up to a previous challenge, your brain will go, oh yeah, we've made it through this before. And once you've made it through something 3, 4, 5, 10 times, you're not having to think new thoughts. You're still connecting new dots as you finish more and more songs, and that becomes a habit. But you go from your brain telling you, no, we just make grooves and then we're done, to we finish songs. That's what we do. We've done it before. We're going to do it again. And it'll start feeling wrong to not finish songs, to put your songs aside, where right now it feels wrong to move to the next level. I hope that makes sense. Let's take a look at what else people are talking about here. Craig says, I usually find I get together some things I like, a good sound with a melody I like, some rhythms going, but putting together bass lines is often something I find difficult. And often I find a bunch of things I like, but the track feels like it's missing something, incidental sounds or something to really fill in the track. Yep, this is something that I've taught thousands of students how to get through. This is something that is once again very, very common, and yeah, it comes with, I don't want to say it comes with experience. It comes with understanding a process. When you understand a process, it's kind of, you get to just kind of check things off the list as you go. So you don't have to overthink the whole thing. And that's kind of what's going on. You continued here, said, the track I'm working on is like that. I like the sounds. I like the melodies I put together. Not happy with the rhythms, but still working on them. But even with rhythms in, the track just doesn't seem complete. Feels too repetitive. Perhaps not enough variation to maintain interest. Perhaps the track just not feeling like it goes anywhere. Yep, I totally get it. I mean, we're going to get into this further, but I mean, you've got a basic idea, but you haven't like cemented the groove, right? And until you cement that groove and really get something that's moving you, you don't quite have a song yet. You know, once you get that groove, even before it's arranged and everything, you've got a song. You know what I mean? It's just, how do you keep it interesting for a certain length of time? You know, several minutes. So awesome, guys. If you guys are ready to go, I figure let's do this. So just type an exclamation point if you guys are ready to go. If you guys have questions, you can ask them during this training, and I'll try to get to some of that. Or if I'm kind of getting into something, just hang tight, and I'll get to those questions at certain times in the training. So while I'm waiting for you guys to put in the exclamation point, let's get started. So what I am trying to share with you is my secrets for finishing, not just finishing songs, but finishing songs that are going to be release quality, right? Getting your song to at least the professional level where it's releasable. This is not about perfection, but there is a certain threshold that you have to get past for your song to become releasable, right? And hopefully I can guide you guys a little ways with that. So get yourselves prepared. So here's the thing. This does not require being an expert with music theory, sound design skills, or having like really expensive third-party plugins and synths and all that stuff. I do recommend that you have the suite version of Ableton, because all the tools that it comes with really gives you everything that you need. If you're using standard, then you're not really getting some of the tools, and you're going to need some tools. Now there's a lot of free tools as well, but that's a rabbit hole that I'd prefer you not to go down. So I'm just going to jump through my slides here and just kind of talk to you guys one-on-one here. All right. So who is this training not for? So this training is not for experts who are already finishing release quality songs quickly and consistently. Anyone who's not willing to try a new approach or change their thinking habits, or people who don't plan on putting what they learn into action. Those are the main three things, because those are going to be required to take on the type of tips that I have for you guys. So if that's not you, you can continue with me, and I hope that you do. If this is you, then maybe this training is not for you. If you enjoy just hanging out with me, that's fine as well. Who is this training for? Training is for anyone who aspires to be a better music producer. Wherever you're at, you can always get better. And you can always learn from someone that's done it before, done the thing that you want to do. Anyone who has challenges finishing release quality songs quickly and consistently. If you have challenges with that, what some of you have spoke about, then this is good training for you. And anyone who is tired of collecting tons of information, either from forums or YouTube or what have you, collecting information can be an addiction that really gets you nowhere. You're just going to chase your tail around. In other words, it's almost better to just, it sounds counterintuitive, but it's almost better to just start finishing tunes instead of learning a bunch of stuff. And I know you're thinking, well, I would finish tunes if I had the information. You don't really need that much information. You need a process. All right. If you guys are distracted, if you got other stuff going on with your computer, if you're on your phone and you're close to your laptop or desktop computer, I'd recommend watching this on there. If you're distracted, you're just not going to get as much out of it, you know. And we live in an age where everything distracts us. So, you know, I tell you to close Facebook, but that's where we're at right now. Just try not to get distracted by notifications and all that sort of stuff. All right. And yeah, save your questions for a little bit. Actually, you could drop your questions in, keep the conversation going. If you have any comments, we can discuss that as we go. And what I'm curious about for you guys is who here has heard of me before? Who here knows who I am? Let me just go ahead and put up a little slide here and just let me know if you know who I am. Just yes if you do, no if you don't. And I know I've got to wait for the latency thing. I know that's a pain in the ass, but I need your responses. And once again, while you're here, tag a friend. If you got music producer friends that can use some of this training, we got a lot to get into. Tag a friend. I think it's going to be very good, you know. Sharing is caring, right? Steven says no. Okay, so you're not familiar with me, Steven. Well, welcome here. I'm glad to have you. Anyone else? Craig says no. Steven says no. Okay, so I'm going to assume that a lot of you guys don't know me. So this is me. I am Jason Timothy. I run the website, musicsoftwaretraining.com, where, you know, I teach loads of courses. I've got a lot of free stuff. I've got loads of courses, loads of products, more like tools, techniques, things like that. And then really deep trainings, right? Some of the trainings are on the website and some of the trainings are not public. You will be introduced to one of the trainings that are not public that I'm kicking off in January, actually January 2nd, where you'll have an opportunity to work with me for a month, kind of one-on-one in a way. Very interactive. Rodney has heard of me. Alan has heard of me. Awesome. Damien came across my work from the podcast. Oh, that's awesome. I also, yeah, you can also find my podcast. It's called the Ableton Music Habits Podcast. And I got a bunch of stuff there as well. So yeah, I run the site. I'm a best-selling author. I can actually say I wrote the book on this. I wrote the book on the mental game of electronic music production. And it's really, I can just jump over here real quick. So if you type in music production, that's all you got to type, not book or anything, just music production. As you see, it kind of comes up here. And it's a bestseller, which is great. #1 bestseller right now. Been that way for quite a while. Got 130, mostly, as you can see, 88% 5-star reviews, 1 4-star. Oh, interesting. I think for the first time, I just got some 3 and 2-star reviews. The 1 review, I know where that came from. That was from someone that Kindle itself didn't release their books on PDF. So pretty much that guy hates it on Kindle. Anyway, Tyrus said, until now, great, welcome. So with all I can well back to whatever it is, you know, there. It's a little bit just tight, or we should be. So I don't know why this computer's a little, the audio should fine though. So it's still hearing me, just hang tight and everything will sort itself out. Thanks guys for hanging in there. So also with me, I run, I'm the founder of Punch's Records. We've had loads of releases on there. We do kind of like a minimal deep tech sort of sound, but this is not a stylistic training. I've taught people in every electronic style, from hip hop and trap and dubstep to trance, psytrance, progressive house, minimal, techno, progressive house, deep house, you name it. There is someone that I've helped in all those styles. Okay. And my partner basically runs the, my partner runs this label, right? Steven, yeah. If you lost the feed, just restart, refresh the page if you lose the stream. All right? Because it shouldn't be lagging anymore. It was lagging, but it looks like we're back. All right. So next, let's get back over to me here. I just don't want to do a whole kind of live stream with a slideshow, right? I want to be kind of more one-on-one with you guys, more real, if you say it that way. All right. So the one question that many of you guys have, I'm sure, and it's something that you haven't really been able to answer for yourself, and it's probably costing you, years in lost time and energy. All right. And that is why you're here. And that question is, how can I start finishing release quality songs consistently? Right. That is what I want to help you to do. So I'm going to show you my perspective, my experience. I don't like to share. I don't mind sharing techniques that have worked for other people on occasion, but really, I've been teaching people for a good 20 years. So there's certain things that I know tend to work, and certain things that are, questions. They work for some people, they don't work for others, that sort of thing. I want this to be a little bit more universal. All right. So what would it mean to you guys? Type in the comments. What would it mean to you guys to start finishing tracks, releases, and have a higher profile? Is that important to you guys? Is that something that, and there's no wrong answer here. But I'm just wondering what finishing songs and making releases and being heard and building your profile would mean to you guys. Because my goal here is to kind of flip the script a little bit. Some of the things that I teach are a bit counterintuitive, right? And a lot of producing goes on in here. A lot of producing has nothing to do with the DAW or any of that stuff. Most of the problems are in here. All right. So if people are telling you need this tool or you need that tool or whatever, that might work for them, but it's not universal. And most of the time it's not true either. A lot of people speak with their egos, and that's why they give misinformation, because they want to sound smarter than the people that they're talking to. I'm not incredibly smart. I've just got a lot of experience in this, and I took longer than most people, right? In fact, I've done way more wrong than I've done right. Here are some things that I've learned in the last 20 years. All right. One is I've learned that anyone can make quality music, because there hasn't really been anyone that I haven't been able to teach how to do this. Now, obviously, the level of success is going to vary quite widely. You have to be committed to a process, and you have to actually do the work. But everyone who's done the work has been able to make quality music. Okay. Another thing I found is most of the big names, the bigger names in music production, they don't necessarily know much more than you do. Not really. The thing is, they have their process to do their thing, and they do that very well. So why do they need to learn all the other stuff? And when you get started, what you do is you collect so much information. You want to learn everything, and you don't start implementing anything. So one, you forget 90% of the things that you learned, and you still haven't put yourself into action. All right. This I can tell you for truth, absolute truth, is there's really the only difference between you and your heroes is your level of commitment plus time, right? And there's also some shortcuts that you can take to skip over, the decade or so that it takes many people to get to this level where they're at least comfortable with their own abilities. You guys with me so far? Another thing is success has nothing to do with the type of compressor or reverb that you use. What it has to do with is understanding how a compressor or a reverb or a delay or EQ works. If you understand how it works, why it works, when to use it, when not to use it, almost any tool will work now. That might not have been true in the 90s, but now technology has gotten to the point where almost every tool is good enough quality for production. It's just each of the tools has a different personality. All right. More equipment and plugins often actually means less productive work, less productivity. Reason for that is you're constantly getting a new tool that you have to learn, and you haven't even learned the process of finishing songs. So the longer you delay from from learning how to finish songs, the worse it's going to be for you. And the more you're going to keep putting distractions in front of that, right? I've also learned that having less time than you think you need can be a really big benefit. Giving yourself a timeline kind of gets you in action, gets you in motion, and you'll be surprised what you can accomplish when you like literally sit down and set a timer and say, I'm doing this, right? And, I usually like to do 50-minute sessions at a time, commit to 50 minutes of working on something. And then the 10 minutes left over from the hour, I can kind of walk around. I can take care of, just daily bullshit and stuff like that, and then come back in. That way I can dedicate myself to, full concentrated work. I can do that for 50 minutes. All right. Stephen says, releasing my own tracks means a lot to you. Well, what does it mean to you? Like, what would that do for you, Stephen? Like, what specifically would it do for your life? Because if you don't know what it's going to do for you, you're not necessarily going to have the motivation that it takes to get really good at something. And the last thing that I've learned in 20 years is that your music habits are more important than your technical skills. I've developed technical skills as I've gone on. But, for example, I started in this as a guitar player, and I was never that technically skilled at all. I took longer to learn the guitar than probably anyone. But I focused on writing songs. And the way I looked at it is, this guitar here is just backing up my ideas. So I can make it as simple as I want, right? Finishing songs was my first thing. And then interacting with other musicians and just playing with the guitar and discovering things, I got a little better and a little better. It still didn't make me a virtuoso, and I'm still, kind of a crap guitarist, but it doesn't stop me from finishing songs using guitar. In fact, in the bands that I was in when I was younger, we won a radio contest against like all the bands that submitted from Southern California, sold out the Roxy, sold out other shows. The second band got voted the top 50 unsigned bands in Musician Magazine. So it wasn't about having this huge skill level of talent. My skill level was more in songwriting, right? So figure out what you're good at, and don't worry so much about the other stuff. At the end of the day, what you really want is to make a song that sounds good to other people's ears. All right. So in this training, I'm gonna try to give you some shortcuts that will, cut some time in half or even more than half, right? Over the decade of trial and error, I did the whole forum thing. And the thing about forums is all these people are kind of jaded. They're kind of know-it-alls, and they do know a whole lot of stuff, but they're kind of pissed off because they are not where they want to be. And they think that they're smart enough to be there, but they're still not there. So all of that is taken out on other people in forums and stuff like that. And they all argue about what the best EQ plugin is and all that sort of stuff. YouTube can be a great free resource, but once again, it's kind of a rabbit hole, and it can be addictive, and it's endless. And most of the time, you're not gaining anything that is helping you move forward with your music, right? Craig says, I'd love to release an album. I love to have an album out there that makes others feel the way some of my favorite albums make me feel. Yeah, that is huge. It's so cool to have people write you or come up to you personally and share what your music means to them. I've had that experience. I've seen big DJs play my tracks. I've been at big clubs and, got to kind of be a fly on a wall and watch people react to the music that I created. And it is a wonderful feeling. It's a feeling of like connectedness with people. Your art is being enjoyed by so many people at the same time. It's really powerful. Something else that motivates me is that someday I'd like to play one of my own tracks for a dance floor. This is incredible, and it's totally doable. That was one of my goals too. In the beginning, I want a track that I can play myself. And now over the years, I've been able to do whole sets of music, whole 2-hour sets where I, sometimes I'll play nothing but my own tunes. And to know that it goes over as well as the tunes that I buy and collect is really, really powerful. Really, really great. Okay. I would love for you to experience that. Steven says, these days in house music scene, DJing is not enough to progress. I 100% agree with you. People need to know about you, and the best way for them to know about you is to discover your music. That's usually the path now. Back in the 90s, you could kind of be a DJ because there were less DJs out there, and you could just do that and do it very well. Now it's actually more important that you're a producer, even if you're not a great DJ. You'll get way more gigs because promoters want your name to be recognizable, because they, their whole thing is get asses into the club, and it makes sense, right? They're the ones that are putting the money up for the building. Rodney says, good at starting ideas. I get to points and put them away, or somehow just not finishing. Been at it for a long time. Would be great to finish my ideas and turn them into songs. That's awesome, Rodney. And it's totally possible as well, right? Steven says, and creatively want to learn how to put my impression of my own personality in my music. Let me tell you something about that, all right? Because that's a really powerful thing. And it's something that can sometimes kind of slow people down a little bit. Here's the thing. Everything comes from somewhere else. Everything. Nothing comes from you. We're filters, right? Just like a filter in a plugin. We are creative filters. We could literally take an idea from another song, and even if we think we're completely stealing the idea, it still filters through us, and we still make certain tweaks that makes it our own. We just don't recognize that we have our own style until we've finished, 10, 15, maybe 20 songs. And all of a sudden we start seeing what's in common with all of our tunes. And when we figure that out, that's when you know that other people are starting to figure that out as well. You're always going to have influences, and you shouldn't worry so much about the influences or trying to be 100% original and throw away any idea that sounds anything like anyone else. There's a reason why people are inspired by other songs. And there's a reason why those inspirations lead to other people finishing great songs, right? So I think it's a great skill to develop. And you certainly don't want to copy another artist, but don't be afraid to steal ideas from another artist. Like many have said before, a good artist copies and a great artist steals. The way I look at it is I take anything from anywhere, because if we are filters and everything's filtering through us, through our conversations, through the TV shows we watch, to the music that we listen to, why would we cut off one of those streams? Wouldn't we have an opportunity to be more creative by allowing more streams of access to us? Something to think about. So some other things here is always feeling like I needed more information, more plugins, more hardware, thinking that I could only write good stuff when I was inspired. And actually the inspiration usually comes from sitting down and doing the work. And in sitting down and starting, that's when the muse shows up. The muse waits for you to make the first step, okay? The ideas come to those. Think about like ideas as the ether. There's just a whole ether of ideas, right? And they sit at a certain frequency. And they're only going to channel to people who are allowing that energy to come through. And the way you allow that energy to come through is by sitting down and doing the work, right? Just something to think about. Curious, how many unfinished ideas do you guys think you have? While we're going through this, I would love to see how many unfinished ideas you guys have in your archive. Is it 10? Is it 50? Is it 100? Really, really curious. And what would it be like to be able to go back to all those songs and finish them in the type of quality that is releasable? So if you guys are ready to avoid years of frustration and get on the fast track to music production, let's get into this, all right? So my story, many people who know me know my story, is after about a 10-year lull. I did have some successes early on. I'm not going to lie about that. And it felt like beginner's luck in some way. I thought it was going to be really, really easy to just kind of continue. But what happened is, with the beginner's luck, then I started questioning my own ability to make music, and once again started thinking and overthinking the fact that I didn't know enough to consistently make tunes, right? So even though I got lucky and made great tunes, or at least tunes that big DJs thought were good, I didn't have the confidence, and I was so afraid after being invited to all these parties and backstage and all this stuff with all my, not all of them, but many of my heroes. I didn't want to put out my next track and have people realize that I was actually a crap producer. And I was also in a partnership with another guy when I did this. So anyway, it led to like a 10-year lull, finishing very few songs. I didn't release any, well, that's not true. I released a couple remixes, kind of indie dance stuff, not necessarily the style that I wanted to be known for, but it was still, I mean, it was good, but I didn't finish that much. And I didn't release like anything on Beatport. I had, there was no Spotify at the time, but, and so I realized that I had to sit down and figure out how to get past my own blocks and how to get past my own mental blocks and production blocks and actually work out a process that was going to work for me. And that's when I spent a whole year trying to figure this out. And by the end of that year, actually 13 months, I ended up finishing 52 songs. So I more than 10x'd my output. It was really, really powerful. And there's certain things about that process that led me to spending another year figuring out how I can help other people of not just my style, but any electronic music style to get similar results. That doesn't mean everyone's going to finish 52 songs, but my goal for people is that they're able to average about a song a week. Sometimes a song takes longer, sometimes shorter. It's okay, if a song takes 3 weeks and you're doing something new, but by having an average and being able to sit down when someone asks you to make music for them and not be afraid and just know that you can accomplish it is really, really powerful. All right. So, yeah. And here's the thing. Not only did I finish more songs, but they were of higher quality and I was getting better and better and making new discoveries. And I was releasing these songs, or at least all the original songs. I ended up with 2 #1 EPs from this 1-year session. And the next year I had another #1 EP. So very, very powerful, that you can finish songs faster and raise your quality. Let me see. Steven says you've got like 25 maybe. Craig says I've got about 30. I loaded up one last night and immediately wanted to get back to work on it because I really love the bit that I have. That's the thing. But you want to get out of the habit of sitting there and just listening to your loop for 15, 20 minutes. And that will be a habit because that feels comfortable. But actually sitting down and maybe destroying this little seed of idea can be a little scary. So, this course here, this masterclass here, it's obviously not like a get famous fast sort of class, but it is a finish songs fast and learn and correct yourself and move forward and get the quality up to a certain standard that professionals have, right? And there's usually a number of things that are holding people back. So if you guys are ready for this, I want to share with you how I finish quality songs in Ableton without the need for music theory expertise, sound design expertise, or loads of third-party plugins. Everyone cool? If you're here, like I know there's latency, but if you're here, just type a 1. Just let me know that you're here, you're listening, you're getting something out of this. And I'll just continue with this, all right? So I'm going to jump over here to my screen because these are kind of writer-downers sort of things, all right? Let's go here. All right, so I'll share the 3 secrets and then we'll kind of get into it, okay? So my first secret is I've never learned music theory, and yet I've released, it says over 50. Well, it is over 50 songs in 3 years, certainly. And I continue to release more songs. I've had 3 #1 releases, and I don't feel any limitations of not having music theory. I'm kind of a terrible sound designer. I am getting better, but even while I was finishing songs, I really wasn't very great at designing sounds. Yet my songs are packed with awesome kind of original signature sounds. So I'm going to share some tips on how to do that. Thank you guys for all the ones. That's awesome. How many hours did you put in your songs per week? I dedicated myself to 1 hour a day as often as possible. I probably missed about 30 to 35 days in a year. But for the most part, I dedicated myself to putting 1 hour a day into my music. Not everyone is capable of doing that. If you've only got 30 minutes, then do it for 30 minutes. But that really, really helped me because the things that I learned the day before would still be in my head when I put them to use the next day. So I'm just building and accumulating all this information that I reuse and reuse. So it makes it a lot easier. My third secret here is that if you've got an 8-bar loop, you nearly have a song finished, okay? So let's get into this. So I've never learned music theory. You know, luckily I wasn't really like a progressive metal guy or someone that needed to learn crazy solos and stuff for my particular style of music. You know, I was into bands like Depeche Mode and The Cure and New Order and a lot of 80s bands that weren't super complex. So I figured I could do this, you know, and I just tried to feel things out. And the music theory wasn't really necessary. And I didn't want to like get lessons from someone that played a certain style and then have that influence the kind of guitar player I began, because I started off on guitar. And so when my dad first gave me a guitar, he also gave me a chord book. But after about a week, I just got really bored with it. I threw it out and never used it again. It didn't make me a better guitar player by doing that, but it turned me into someone who did stuff that I was excited with. Steven, Information Society and Erasure. Yeah, both good bands. So I still don't feel any limitations. And what I like about not knowing theory for so long is that I still get to discover a new chord, at least one that's new for me, instead of always knowing exactly what I'm playing. I love the feeling of discovery. That's why if I get to, you know, if I play my guitar tune and I want to sit down with a keyboard or a new instrument or something, so I can get that element of surprise and mystery back into. Start with the drums and the bass line, right? And I'm not going to go into how to start the drums and your bass line. We could get into that afterwards. But what you want to do is choose a major or a minor key using Ableton's scale tool. And this will automatically correct any notes that are not in the key. Okay, are you guys familiar with the scale tool in Ableton? It's in Ableton's MIDI effects. Anyone use it? Okay, so if you haven't heard of the scale tool, it's really, really great. There's loads of presets on it that you can get to that will allow you to play any note on the keyboard. We got some horns going too. It'll allow you to play any note on the keyboard while it corrects the notes into a certain key. So there's loads of different keys. And as you can see here, this is like in the key of C, but you could turn it up to D, E, F, you know, you could get minors and majors and all that sort of stuff. Very cool. So this way, you're not having to worry about hitting the right or wrong notes, okay? So that keeps you from having to learn music theory, okay? There are certain tips in theory that can help, but this can make it real easy to kind of create melodies and things that are in key with your tune. So you just kind of have to choose what key you want to play in, and then it'll correct those notes, okay? You got it so far? There we go. Cool. All right. We'll just use this camera. Fine. All right, guys. So tip number 2, making chords. So what you're going to do is you're going to start by creating a new MIDI track. All right. And you're going to copy and paste the scale tool into the new track. That way you're using the same scale on all of your tracks, right? So if you aren't sure what notes to play, just drop the scale tool, like copy and paste it so you've got the same settings in all of your tracks. And then what you're going to do is you're going to place the chord tool before it. So what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to just hit one note and it'll play a chord. In this case, when you hit a note, it'll hit that note plus 2 notes below it, 5 notes above, 6 notes below, and 12 above, so an octave above, right? And this is a preset there. You can choose from different presets and see what kind of chords you like best. And then, of course, you're going to follow it up by an instrument that creates sound. So, you know, start with a preset and you can tweak it from there. All right. So you want to make sure the chord tool is before the scale tool. The scale tool is always going to be the last thing because sometimes these chords are not going to hit the right notes for your scale. So this will correct those notes. So you're getting chords that are being played in the key without you having to, you know, understand the science behind it. All right. So that is another very cool effect. And then you could start exploring, you know, once again, the chord presets. And you could play along with your bass line, you know, hitting one note at a time on your keyboard to create chords that go with your bass line. Or you could even just copy in the notes in MIDI, the MIDI notes from your bass line, and drop it in here. And then you can just raise that an octave or two, you know, for your chords and melodies. All right. So you can kind of use the same notes as starting points, you know, from your bass line. Cool. Hope everyone gets something out of that. Let's move on to the next. Oh, hang tight. All right. Tip number 3, melodies. Okay. So this is pretty cool. So once again, once we've got our chords, we can jump into creating a melody by duplicating the chords track. All right. So we duplicate the track, and then we're just going to add an arpeggiator in between the chord and the scale tool. All right. So just drop in the arpeggiator from the MIDI tools, and now you can play your chords into here. And of course, you could play notes yourself as well, but you could use those chords, and the arpeggiator will start spitting out some interesting melodic content. And you could kind of mess with this as you go until you find something that's interesting. And of course, you're going to want to use a new synth sound, something that has more of like a melodic lead sort of sound. All right, you guys with me so far? Just type yes if you guys are still with me, so I know that you're getting something out of this. And of course, if you got any questions, feel free to ask. So here's what we're going to want to do is we can take our, for melodies, we'll create a new track, right? And we'll arm the track here, and we can drop a melody here, right? So this is the input. So we want the input from this track to come into audio, all right? And so you're going to set the input to melody for the track that you previously created. So this is a new track that you created. You could copy and paste the chords if you want, or play single notes or whatever you want. I'd start with the chords just to see what happens, and then you could kind of play with it. So what you're going to do is you're going to arm the track with kind of a little chord structure, right? And then you're just going to kind of copy this out for like 15 minutes. Hit record. This is armed, so you're going to hit record up at the top. And then it'll start recording your melodies as audio. And then what you can do is you can start experimenting with the chord tool, and you can experiment with the arpeggiator tool. And also you can play notes in as well. So you can play with different melody ideas, different chord ideas, and that sort of thing. And yeah, just go for 15 minutes, and then you've got audio here, and you can just cut out the bits that you like. All right. That way you're not pressuring yourself to come up with an amazing melody just off the spot. You're allowing an accident to happen and inspire you. And maybe what comes out is not going to be the perfect melody, but there might be a few notes that cluster together that you really get something out of. So use that cluster and then add to it, right? That is my tip for melodic content, right? Without having to know sound design. Super easy, right? And everything's going to be perfectly in key because we use that scale tool ahead of time. Okay. You guys with me? Was that a good tip or what? So yeah, this hopefully is something that you can put into practice today. You know, I'm so sick of videos where you learn something that you can't put into practice. There's too many steps to getting the job done, right? I'm trying to give you steps that if you follow it, you can actually put it to use right away and really start moving your music forward. All right. So secret number 2, also, is it okay that I'm using the slides here? I just figure I want you guys to have the visual for this part of the training. Everyone cool with that? Just give me a thumbs up if everyone's cool with that. And I'll continue until I see a response. You can give me a thumb down or say no if you prefer just me to talk one-on-one with you. All right, so secret number 2 for me is I'm an average sound designer at best, yet my songs are packed with awesome original signature sounds. All right. So my tip on this, most producers make the mistake of spending hours trying to get one specific sound and failing at making the sound, because most of us are not able to create the sounds that are in our head. And we try and we try and we fail. And then we kind of close up the session feeling like a failure after a couple hours of trying to nail a certain sound. All right. You guys been there? I'm sure. So a smart producer records the whole process of trying to get a certain sound, or sometimes not even trying to get a certain sound, just experimenting with a synth or two, or different presets or whatever. And then listening back, they discover 50 to 100 really interesting sounds that they never would have come up with before. And if you hadn't recorded the process, you wouldn't have even recognized that you had these great sounds, because your brain is only wanting to see the sound that you specifically have in your head, right? It's kind of like a magic trick. I know there's a card trick where I show someone a card, right? Is this your card? Yes, no, great. And then I do some trickery, and then I show people 2 more cards, and one of the card is the same card that I just showed them, right? But they don't even recognize that because their brain is looking for their card, right? So pretty interesting. That's just, that's the way your brain works. So don't rely on it, right? Record everything. And when you come back to it with a new set of, your brain is going to be saying, hey, show me something interesting that was created randomly. Then you could cut out those bits. You could even make your own little sample packs and stuff. So with the same concept used for making your melodies, with MIDI, you can simply create a MIDI track with a scale tool and your favorite synth. And then like we did with the other, let's get here again. Like we did with the MIDI before, we can just set up our track here and then put whatever the new track, just a synth or whatever, this track, the audio track, pull that in. Another thing that you can do as well, if you just want to experiment so that you're not listening to any of the other music that you made already, is you could solo this track, and then you could just set this to either the track itself, or you could set it to resample. And if you set it to resample, it is just going to capture anything that is soloed. Okay. If it's cutting out for you, let me know if it's cutting out for anyone else. Try refreshing, because on my end, everything looks like it should be going smoothly. So a refresh. If everything seems to be working on my end, try refreshing the page. All right. And then come on back. So it says here, I say here, you can hit record. You can experiment with an arpeggiator. You can experiment with whatever. But what you want to do is like really just tweak the knobs that you would never use, right? Tweak the knobs that you would never use and break all the rules you can. You can even drop effects in, but what I recommend is if you're using effects, probably shouldn't use reverb or delay yet, because it's better to start with dry sounds, getting that to audio. And then when you find the cuts that you like, you can experiment further with effects and things like that. Cool. So I would recommend you could go for 30 minutes, 45 minutes if you want, just experimenting. And you don't have to just experiment with one sound. When you, what I would do is previously kind of get an idea of like 5 different presets that you want to play with. Just experiment, and this could be one sound. This is a case where you can use third-party synths, what I would do is or whatever as well, because you're not trying to learn the synth. You're just dragging it in, playing with presets, and just whatever happens, happens. All right. So this is where I would use, some synths that I don't normally use. And then once I have things in audio and cut it up, I could also experiment with effects that I don't normally use. So I hope that is helpful to you guys. All right. So yeah, I think I've covered all this. Yeah, so once you have your cut up sounds collected, you can start to actually layer one good sound with another good sound and create even more interesting sounds. And this is really where sound design gets interesting. And a lot of the sounds that you love in other songs, the reason they sound so complicated is because it's not just one sound. It's several sounds working together. You could reverse one sound into another sound as an extra layer. And this is where you can kind of drop in effects and different things as well. So first you're going to cut up those sounds, and then you can kind of put sounds together, create 3 or 4 tracks, and just, obviously you want to try to EQ appropriately. So if one has like a bassy tone, then try to get the bass out of the other layers and things like that. But you can make some really, really interesting sounds. So that is, that's that. So that was my second secret and the tips. I hope that you are getting something out of this continuously. I'm trying to pack it with information that you can like really take to the next level. All right. So my third secret that I've got tricks that I've solved is if you have an 8-bar loop, you have a nearly finished track. Okay, so this is a way that I want you to think about things. Even if you know, obviously many of you probably have 8-bar loops, 16-bar loops, maybe even 32-bar loops, and you just can't take it further. Just understand that if that really rocks your world, those loops themselves, if you're feeling good about those, even if it's a great, you know, head nodder, even though it's a starting idea, if you've got that, you've got a nearly finished song. Okay, a lot of other producers say the same thing. Is they get excited when they get a loop because they understand that those elements are the song, and all they got to do is keep it interesting for a certain amount of time. So most producers make the huge mistake of not recognizing that an 8-bar loop is a song, and then they give up, right? Sound like you? You can type guilty if that sounds like you. So tip number 6, a song is an 8-bar loop kept interesting for 5 to 7 minutes. That's just how it is. If the brain stayed interested for 5 to 7 minutes with a loop, then you would have a song. Problem is that the brain doesn't stay consistently attentive to a repeating part for too long. The brain will give you a certain amount of time to be repetitive, and then it'll stop following. So by simply adding, you know, take your loop, stretch it out for however long the style of music that you make. In fact, it's a good idea to use a reference track, warp that track. I can't really get into warping now, but I've got training on it. A lot of people have training on how to warp a track. Warp the track, and then you know, wherever you see drops in that song, drop the kick out of your song, just so that you mentally have a feel for this song having a structure, even though it's dropping from and going back into the same part, right? But you can take this part, stretch it out, then you can simplify your intro and your outro. So there's like a third of your song done right there, right? And then you put in 2 or 3 breaks. And so now you've just got to work on 3 or 4 sections inside. And from there, it's just about adding up and subtracting layers to keep the energy and level of interest up, right? So think about it, the brain gets restless without change or sounds that spark interest. And what I like to call this is a reset. I believe that the brain needs a reset at least once every 8 bars. So if you're repeating something for 8 bars, you need something interesting to happen in order for the brain to say, okay, I heard something interesting. Now I'm interested again for another 8 bars. And you want to continuously interest the brain at least once every 8 bars so that the brain will want to follow 8 bar at a time, okay? And if you're using the same reset every time, then that becomes repetitive. So the brain's going to get tired of that. So just understand that. But a reset can be as simple as a crash cymbal, a percussive sound, something with reverb, like an impact sort of sound, or a slight change in the groove, drum fill, or an unexpected sound that grabs interest. You could also have like an extra, you know, kick, you know, adding kind of a drum fill sort of thing, or an extra hi-hat or clap, or momentary removal of any of these things. And that's usually enough to regain the brain's interest. Everyone following me so far? Look, keep this simple, guys. Some of you might be thinking, yeah, but I need this over-the-top breakdown and build up. And if I don't do that, then that's totally cool. There's nothing against that, and there's nothing against doing that. I'm not telling you how to make your style of music. What I'm telling you is you got to start with a basic understanding of what you're breaking down from and what you're going to build back into. So I would do the structure part first and get the parts in there. You know, basically when you have a break, you can look at it like, okay, well, before the break, something's going on. And after the break, something new needs to happen. I either need to add something or subtract something so it sounds different than the last part. And I need something that's going to reset the listener as well. Okay. That's the basic to it. And then however many layers that you want to add, that's all to, you know, all to do with you. And, you know, in my master course training, you know, that I'm launching again in January, we dive really deep into all this stuff, you know, so that you really fully understand it. But I hope this is enough where you can, you know, start putting it into practice. All right. This is very important, guys. Groove is king. It doesn't matter how many amazing sounds you have in your song. If you lose the groove, you lose the listener. Okay. You might even want to write that down. Lose the groove, lose the listener. So always check how the groove is affected by whatever you add or subtract to a song. If you're feeling that the groove is either sounds slower or sounds not as you're not nodding your head as much, and it's not a breakdown. Now in a breakdown, it's good to create that tension, right? And sometimes, within the song, short creations of tension can be good, but you always want to return to that groove. So if you're adding something, you want to make sure that that is adding to the groove and picking up the speed of the groove. If you're subtracting from the groove, you should have a really good reason why, and it shouldn't be something that lasts so long that you lose the groove in the rest of the song. So a couple things that I can share with you. Let me just check and see. All right. A couple things that I can share with you here about groove and adding, subtracting is if you do lose the groove, the feel for the groove, a couple things that you can do, one of three things. Either don't use the sound, just take it out completely. Change the sound. Maybe it's something more interesting that you need, or something that goes with your song a little better, that doesn't cloud up your groove. You can actually also try another octave up or an octave down to see if it's because of the frequency range that it's in. And lastly, you could change the timing of where that note is played. You can move 16 notes, a couple 16 notes up or a couple 16 notes back, and see if it gives you a better result that seems to drive the groove better. So those are my three tips for that. So a couple questions before we move forward. Let me get your questions in real quick. So since there's latency, I'm going to grab more water, and drop your questions in the comments. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back and looking for your questions. Okay. Johan, is your name Johan? Correct me if I'm wrong on how to say your name. I hate destroying names. What do you mean by groove in a song? A groove is usually a drum beat and a bass line and a part that kind of moves a song forward, gets you nodding your head, right? Okay, I'll call you John, no problem. It's the part that drives a dance floor. That's the groove, all right? And if you're not feeling that groove, you got to have a really good reason for that. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be a dance song, right? And I'd say you don't really need to worry about it if you're making ambient music or what have you. But even classical music has a groove to it. It has a feel that kind of drives you forward, but it's a little different than dance music. Actually, a lot different than dance music. So yeah, you want the one part that gets you nodding your head. Usually it's drums, bass, maybe a stab sound or a little vocal cut or some sort of thing. So every part that you add, you want it to add to those drums. You want it to kind of fill in the gaps that those drums are not filling in. So yeah, that's my definition of groove. Craig says, how much is enough when starting with drums and a bass line? I often find I end up trying to come up with really interesting rhythms or bass, and I wonder if that holds me back. It can. If you're trying to complicate things for the sake of complicating it, or if you just have an idea that's a little more complicated, you try it out, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. But most of the time, when I have a complicated part here, I can let me jump over to my face here so you guys can actually see me here. Yeah, so try out your complex parts, but most of the time what I discover is it's clouding up something else. So I'll usually remove notes that are not needed. And oftentimes the notes that I remove are on the beat of things like I might remove the like a bass part or a keyboard part from where the kick hits, so the kick can sound a little cleaner, and just let the other notes kind of play. So I don't need to play specifically on every note. Sometimes I pull them out where other drums are filling that in, and I just see if I still feel the feeling from the melody or whatever I'm putting in. And oftentimes I do. That could be the same with drums as well. For example, on the other hand, there are some times where you use a lot of layers. Me personally, I tend to use a lot of layers in my hi-hats. I usually have a lot of different hi-hat stuff going on, or little bits from loops that I kind of cut up the loops just for little tiny parts, and I kind of move them around to keep the shuffle interesting. I used to, when I made songs, it was like just one bass line, you know, the basic drums, kick, snare, hi-hats, clap, maybe a percussion sound. And like, I'd think, well, there it is. Why doesn't it sound amazing? And it's just because there's little details that your brain picks up on that keeps you interested. And, you know, usually your brain has heard all these, you know, parts before. It is good to make it sound simple. So in other words, you don't want to clutter things up where it doesn't sound simple, but sometimes there's subtleties into different things. Like, for example, I might want to add a shaker on top of something because it adds like a little, a different frequency or what have you. I might want to have like a wide sort of hi-hat and then another hi-hat in the middle, or maybe something that's doing a little off rhythm. So sometimes I'll have like 3 or 4. I've had songs that have like 10 different, you know, hi-hat parts going, but they're, you know, they're really particular. So I don't want to tell you that you can't add layers, but instead of asking, is there too much or too little? Ask yourself, does it sound like there's enough, or does it sound like there's too little? You intuitively will know. Okay. Hope that helps. All right. So yeah, let's jump back into this here. Those are my main tips. And I hope if you got any more questions, we could take that in. Here's the thing, guys. Some of you guys are beginners. Some of you guys are intermediate. Some of you guys have never finished a song. Some of you guys have finished several songs, but it's not consistent. Some of you guys have finished songs, but you feel like they're lacking that kind of professional edge, you know, to make it releasable. And some of you just want to take things to the next level. And, you know, there's a couple ways that you can do that. Obviously, you can go the trial and error route, right? And this could take anywhere from a year or two to, you know, to a decade. It took me probably a decade to get really good at my art, and also to figure out the process. Like, I learned the information part, but figuring out the process took me a while. So you can do the trial and error. The one issue with doing the trial and error is that you don't have anyone to show your blind spots. So there's certain mistakes that you're inevitably probably going to make that you don't know you're making. And it's so helpful to have someone that understands the process to help you tweak things that you're not noticing. And, you know, those little things can really add up to a huge difference in not only having better quality songs, but also finishing more songs as well. Okay. So, you know, you could continue doing the YouTube sort of thing as well. And I still use YouTube, don't get me wrong, but the thing about it is kind of like when I told you about my not knowing music theory, is I chose to be ignorant so that my own ideas, my own artistic self came out. Now I'm a bit more interested in some things, music theory, because, let me do that, because now I know who I am. So no one and no training is going to change me as an artist. So yeah. Watching too many videos of what other people are doing can get you kind of trying to chase someone else's idea of what you should be doing. And it's either going to work for you or it's not. So what I would do is use YouTube as a resource, but try to set a timer for yourself. So you're not just watching for entertainment, you're actually watching for something to be useful. Okay. Something that you could put into action right away. Let me just kind of get through here real quick. I want to get through some of the boring stuff. I want to share with you guys the course I'm launching, if you don't mind. Are you cool with me sharing my master course with you and letting you know a little bit about it? This is something that I've run probably a good 500 students through over the years. And it's basically sitting with me for 30 days where I take you through this 19-step, this 19-module process that takes you from the very beginning, starting a song, all the way through the steps to finishing a song. If you're cool with that, I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about it. And also don't forget, I'm going to give away my book as well. So that's my bribe for you to hang out with me here. All right. So yeah, if you guys are wanting to kind of speed up this process, because here's the thing, by the time that you get proficient on your style, the style might have changed by then. You know what I mean? Like when you are following, you tend to always be a little bit behind. Got it? So here we go. And I hope you guys realize that none of this information that I've given so far and none of the information that I'm going to share is theory, right? This is stuff that I've put into practice myself and found that it worked. And some things I put into practice that didn't work. So that I don't share that stuff. You know, I want to share just things that really work for people, right? I didn't get here because I'm someone special at all. In fact, I took a lot longer than a lot of my peers, but you know, I was committed. In fact, I might have been more committed than most of the people who were more skilled, right? That's why I still do music today. And a lot of other people had to, you know, go to their regular jobs. And there's nothing wrong with you know, that at all. It all depends on what you want to do. But for me, I struggled for a while, but I was committed. And that's why I'm still here. So here's the thing. When you plug in this process I'm going to share with you, you're going to be able to start and finish and start finishing release quality songs kind of on demand, you know. And here's the thing, you want to be able to finish multiple songs. Like when you're thinking about making a new song, you should actually be thinking about making an EP. So that's at least 2 songs, ideally 3 songs. Because if you want to get it released, labels are going to want more than 1 song from you. And they're going to want those songs to be fairly consistent with the sound of their label. So you're going to want to make 2 to 3 songs that are similar to each other, if you get what I mean. That way, labels have kind of a specific sound. So just something for you to think about. So I want to give people the confidence that if someone asks for music, you could sit down and in a few weeks, you can have songs ready to go. All right. And you don't need like the expensive plugins. And, you know, once again, you don't need all the expensive stuff. You don't need to know music theory or sound design very well. There's ways around it that I've shown you. So let me just kind of tell you about my course. All right, let's just get into it. So I guess I'll share my screen here. Sorry, guys, it's going to look like a webinar presentation, but I just think it's good for you guys to actually see what I'm seeing. All right. All right. So I'm going to tell you about my EP in 30 Days Master Course. All right. And here's the thing too. You know what? What I'm going to do while I'm sharing this, hang tight just a second. I am going to share my book right now, so you guys can feel free to download the book right now. I don't like having to bribe people to stick around, and I made a promise to you guys that I would share that. So that's the whole book. Download it, enjoy it, read it, get a lot out of it. I think it'll change the way your brain works around creativity. And I've heard that it's helped people with all different aspects of their life, you know, their work life, their relationships, all kinds of different stuff. So apparently it's been really powerful. So yeah, so what the EP in 30 Days Master Course is, it's a 19 module training course that walks you start to finish to finishing release quality music consistently and more quickly. And what it includes is each module includes training videos. I added extra videos called Avoiding Pitfalls because even though the videos are very, very clear for the most part, there's still some subtleties that some people misinterpret. So I have a second video to make sure there's no misinterpretations. There's also workbooks, bonuses, tools, and then I give you homework, which you do, and then you send me the work, I do it, and I get to you. So there's this back and communication with every single lesson so that I not only make sure that you're doing the work, but can course correct for you through the process to make sure that you're getting your style done in a way that is going to give you the best results. Okay. And then once in this course, you're a member for life. So that you can come back and take the course by yourself or whenever there's a public launch anytime. And you also have access to the private group. So let me just choose some models here. All right. What is Rodney? The link should be I just popped it in. Actually, right above you, which are frames that you don't see. But I'll give you make sure this presentation get it to you. And let me know if you guys if I got something weird going on. All right. Like Peter's doing stuff. Here, just a second. So let's see what this last is. This is only the first module. I just want to make sure. Okay. Very first, here's something that I want to share right up. Okay. Because kind of really stand out from like the correct training is that most courses get immediately into the production side of things. And that is not what I will do for you guys. What I want to do is I want your mindset up and get organized so that you're mentally and fully organized and prepared to actually start making your song. Some time before making the song, setting up properly so that you've got every advantage to start moving quickly through making your music. All right. So we'll set the very first module, and this module alone is many people actually alone helped so much. I felt it was already worth. Well, I bet you agree with it. Set up what you want to accomplish is incredibly important, and we dive into this. It's simple, but there's subtle to it. I get in this module. Then we'll module 2. My screen doing weird stuff. It seems like the broadcast is doing all right. Hopefully it speeds up. I hope I'm not. No, I'm not backing up or anything. Okay, cool. So module 2 is getting up to speed with Ableton. Okay, so this is just simply, I want everyone to be on the same playing field. Beginners, intermediate. Everyone learns something from this module. Now, obviously, some of the stuff might seem like a refresh for you guys. It's totally fine. Once again, I don't want to leave anyone behind. So this module kind of gets everyone up to speed on the things that you need to know without telling you everything that Ableton does, because that's pointless. What I want to show you are the things that are most important to know so that you can start finishing songs much more easily. All right. So that's module 2. Module 3, this is where we really start taking off. And this is an incredibly important module because everything else stacks up on top of this. What you learn here is used through the rest of your training. So in this course, I teach you how to listen to music like a pro and start hearing all the details and understanding how those details not only were created, but understanding how to create your own vocabulary for what you're listening to, so that this way you're able to kind of reverse engineer what you're listening to and inject some of those ideas into your own music. All right. Module 4, I get into every effect and instrument in Ableton Suite. I don't get into all the Max for Lives because that's just endless. But all the effects and instruments, I walk you through. So this is probably the longest training. And it's not for you to use all of these effects and instruments. It's for you to know enough about each one to decide which ones are the most important for you, okay? So that you can kind of make a short list and in your head get organized to what you're going to use, okay? Module 5, we get into starting to collect your sounds. We kind of create some go-to presets. We create sample libraries that we're going to work with, drum kits and other sorts of kits. All of this so that you are using a palette of sounds that work with your style. There's nothing worse than having to hunt down all the sounds when you're starting to make a song. You want that part done with so that you know that every sound in your go-to list is usable. All right. Module 6, this is where we get into the 4 essential effects. So I dive really deep on the 4 most important effects that every producer needs to understand. I want you to understand why you would use it, how you would use it, when to use it, and when not to use it. All those things are really important. If you understand all that, then you really know the tools, and then it doesn't really matter which compressor you're using. Understanding how it works. So yeah, obviously some are going to work a little bit better than others, but when you understand how a tool works, you can absolutely get the job done in a professional sounding song. All right. And lesson 7, we start our song. You guys still with me? Let me know. Okay. Oh, what happened there? Okay. Got Got it. Yeah, this is where we start the song, module 7. All right. So I show you how to start the process of putting together your first track, and you'll have like an effective starting point to build up to a release quality song. This is where you start, and it can start with a real simple and not necessarily a super inspired idea. So this part, you'd be surprised how you can take a real basic idea and really turn it into something that you're super proud of. All right. I'll show you how to do that. Next module, we get into song arrangement. And this is incredibly powerful. And, I used to spend months working on song arrangement. Now I can get things done in, 30 minutes. It really can go that quick. And there's a lot of little things that I can show you that will help you really modify your song arrangement for your own style of music. All right. Also on this module, we start planning out our other songs on this EP. So we're actually starting to come up with ideas for our second and third song. And then we'll put them aside and work on them later. But that way you're not having to work on a blank slate after you finish your first song. Okay. So we take care of a lot of stuff in module 8. In module 9, we add the meat. I can get into that, but this is where we start adding the sounds that are really going to, define the character, personality, and atmosphere of your tune. And also it's going to help keep your song interesting. Okay. Module 10, we get into sound design. And here you're going to learn the basics of sound design. I'm going to get into, understanding what sound design is and how to recognize certain sorts of sounds and how they might be put together. And then obviously I'm going to teach you workarounds as well that are really powerful. I showed you some of that in this training, but there's more to it. All right. Very powerful training. Module 11, we create a sound palette. So we created our kits in our presets. This is a sound palette of kind of filler sounds, ways to fill in some of the things. And there's going to be a lot of approaches that we take to filling in your sound and making sure that, your song stays interesting throughout. This is part that takes a lot of work. And, like one of you said, this is the part where most of you guys find that it gets really tedious. Well, if you've got this sort of process, it's actually exciting every step of the way, and it's fun and it's doable. All right. So this is just going to help you, become like a sound creating machine. Really, really, really cool. And it's not going to be that difficult. Module 12, I get into sound manipulation. This is super powerful. This way you can take the sounds that you've already created, all those raw sounds, and you can flip them and twist them and do some really interesting things to them. That's really, really simple. But you're starting with the sounds that are already in your song. So the chances of those sounds working in the song are much, much higher. And you're also not having to source so many more sounds from sample libraries and things like that. You can actually start building sounds from within the palette of sounds you've already got in your song. Hope that makes sense to you. We really dive into that one. And then here's where we start making the builds and breaks. All right. It's after all that other stuff that the builds and breaks comes, because now we have an idea what we're building into and what we're breaking down from. So we know how big or how stripped down our breaks need to be. Okay. So that it sets it up properly for the drop in the song. This is really where you create that tension and anticipation, and the drop is the release. So you really want people to feel this. All right. So we dive into that. The next module is on transitions and fills. By the way, are you guys feeling this? Are you guys, feeling how powerful this can be for you guys, and understanding that this is totally possible for you guys to take on? Are you seeing how understanding a step-by-step process is going to like dramatically improve and speed up your music production? So this is kind of where we kind of glue the sections together. Transitions and fills are what makes a song stop sounding like a really bad cut and paste job, because no one wants to hear that. And this kind of blurs the line. Okay. Very powerful training there. Module 15, I share some of my return track secrets, and there's some really cool stuff that you can do with return tracks that will make your song sound more expensive and give it added details. Really not that difficult to do, but can really add so much subtlety, because your brain recognizes very subtle things. So it might be stuff that you don't even notice, but the listener can recognize it unconsciously. and it keeps their attention. So very, very fun stuff. Module 16 is where we start dialing in your mix. We go through how to actually mix your song so that it's really well balanced, and all the levels and the processing balances out all the parts. It puts together, makes it sound like one whole piece of music, right? There's a lot of simple techniques that I use that will help you get to a better final mix. And then in module 17, this is kind of where we get our head out of the DAW and really try to catch some details that we're missing. A lot of times we visually listen to songs and we miss a lot. So in this part of the training, we get into not needing to see our song and get into listening to it in a different way so that we can have a different perspective on the issues that might happen in a song, okay? In module 18, we start the process of repeating the process. In other words, module 17 is where we actually finish your first song. And then I show you here the best way to start repeating the process so that you can speed up the process. And this is where we start focusing on song 2 and then song 3, okay? So once again, we don't want to just finish one song. We want to finish EPs. And that's what our goal is to do in this 30-day master course, all right? Module 19, I tell you all the stuff that I know about, approaching record labels in the correct way. So you kind of avoid rookie mistakes and really set yourself up as someone that a label wants to pay attention to, because, labels get bombarded with, tons of people who don't go about this the right way. It turns off the labels, turns off the people, and oftentimes it's hard to rebuild that relationship. Okay. So, I give you the best advantage for getting your track signed. And there it is, guys. That is that's the master course. So while I'm just going to read you some testimonials here. And while we're going through this, drop your questions in the chat. You can ask me anything about anything that you want. And I'm here to answer your questions and give you as much advice as I possibly can. Okay. So I know we're on latency once again, but drop your questions. This is what you're here for. Normally when I do a one-on-one session with people, their sessions cost, $200 an hour. This is your chance to kind of pick my brain. So yeah, drop those questions in and I'll get to them. And Craig, I completely agree with you there, is that you don't have a path. You have all this information. It's almost like someone gave you a toolbox that you could barely lift. You got all kinds of tools in it, but you don't know which tools to use, when to use them, how to use them. In fact, you might even know how to use some of the tools, but you don't know when and why to use them or when not to use them. Okay. So yeah, that is a powerful distinction that I'm trying to make with this master course, is really getting the mindset and the process down. Obviously there's going to be techniques that are taught in this, plenty of them, but I think where most highly expensive and corporate sort of trainings really fall flat is in preparing the mind and preparing you with a process, instead of just showing you tons of techniques that might not relate to you at all, or this type of music you're trying to make. So yeah, some testimonials here. My friend Daniel, he was one of my early students, and he said, best thing I ever did was committing to this course, trusting Jason's approach and his knowledge to forevermore have a life filled with music and me making it. I'm going to drop something else in here as well. All right. I'm going to drop this page. Let me just share this page with you. This has probably almost 100 testimonials from my students. So this way you can go through all these at any time that you want. All right. But I'll read a couple highlights here. Madia says, after finishing your course, I changed my pace in producing, and I'm producing a track a week and sometimes even more. In 20 days, I have a second release out. You really changed my music life. Thank you so much. Is this course viewed live as a stream or as video links? So it is, the training is already recorded because I wanted to perfect the training and make sure that I didn't miss anything in the training. However, the interaction with me is going to be day by day. Every time you finish a step in the process, you're interacting with me. And then in the group, I could come in and answer questions to the group as well, as we go through the course. So there is a good amount of interaction going on, direct interaction with me. I don't have anyone else that's looking over your work. I personally go through every single student's homework, which is why I have to limit how many people can join the course. All right. So Chandra, I'm just going to call him Chandra because he's got a long name, writes, I won second place in a remix contest by Black Lemon Records. They're going to release my track. This would not have been possible without your training. Thank you for the mentoring. Pedro says, I've taken courses in Dubspot. Like I said, a lot of corporate training that some of my students have taken before they come to me. And other online courses that have helped me learn a lot of technical stuff, but like how to use a compressor, for example. But no course has been as efficient as this one in actually getting you to finish your music. I have had a great experience on this course and completed 3 tracks in the 30 days and also managed to get one of my tracks signed to a label. So these are just some of the things that are possible for my students if they commit. And once again, I dropped a link to other testimonials so you can check that out. What I'm going to do now is drop the link to actually be able to get the course, okay? I think that's it. Hang on just a sec. Let me just make sure that this link works. Yep, it works. All right, cool. Questions here. Would you say that there's a point at which a producer, I need to make the decision and let a track go? The ideas can still be kept, saved clips and so on, but as a whole, it's just not going to work. Yes, absolutely. In this training, this is something that we really get to, and understanding and improving your listening skills is going to be an incredibly powerful way for you to gauge where you are at in that process and if something is working or if something's not working. And yeah, absolutely. If something doesn't work, but you still like it, yeah, save that clip and it might work in another song. I've got tons of stuff like that. Absolutely. All right, so there's the link. Keep the questions coming, and I'm going to just take you through this sort of stuff. Oh, okay. I wanted to actually show you guys like what some of the corporate guys are charging. I mean, it's kind of silly money. So, and this is just a couple years ago that I checked, but like $3,500 for Paramind, their Ableton course. It's an online course. All right. Now, I wouldn't charge that unless I was working like one-on-one with someone all the way through the process. And you practically get all of that with my course, because even though I have multiple students and I do address some people in a group, you've also got one-on-one conversation with me through every step through email. And if I need to make a video or something like that or sit with you because of something specific, then we do that, because my goal is that you get a result. But yeah, so $3,500 for Paramind. Dubspot, I don't even know if they're still around, to be perfectly honest. I think they were debunked because the owner wasn't smart with his money. But yeah, between $4,750 and $5,500 for their online Ableton courses. All right. And then Point Blank, their music production course is all the way up to almost $19,000, right? So I mean, awesome. If they can get that, good on them. But I just, it's a 3-year course, but do you really want someone to have to make you wait 3 years before you feel prepared to start making music? I don't want to wait that long, personally. So let's get back to this. So yeah, some of the choices I already told you that you have. You could spend years or even decades trying to crack the code of finishing release quality songs. You can totally do it. You can in fact take the information that I shared with you today and take your music further, and I hope that you do. Second choice is you can not produce and just hire a ghostwriter and just be a traveling DJ. There's a lot of producers that are not producers, They hire a ghostwriter and they really don't touch their computer, right? So don't have to worry about making music. That's an option. You could go back to scouring YouTube or music forums. You know, you've been down that rabbit hole. Or, you know, worst case scenario, you just kind of give up on your dreams because you don't feel that you can get yourself there. You know, that's the worst, I think, choice, unless you really find a new interest that turns you on the way that music does. Or you could actually have 10 one-on-one sessions with me, 2 hours each. That's about how long it would take me to teach you this one-on-one, all the training that is packed into this. And that would run you about $3,500 for the 10 sessions with me. And we could do that. And, you know, there's a lot of subtleties to that, but I recommend this training to you instead of going that route. So I want you guys to consider what would be possible for you. What would be possible for you if you were finishing a song a week? What would be possible for you if you could release your first EP, your second EP? By the time you release 5 EPs, what do you think that would do for your profile, your status? What do you think it would do about your other producers that you're around? Would you feel more comfortable around them and more confident? What about the people who you tell you're a producer, but you're not finishing any work? Would it be cool to be able to show them what you're actually accomplishing? And I bet those people probably think it's going to take you a long time to get to where, you know, other producers are at now. And you're always going to get better, but wouldn't it be nice to start finishing songs, you know, right in the beginning of 2020 and like really have something to show for it by February, you know, and even more done by March? Because once you get this process, you just become a song making factory as often as you want. You know what I mean? So I'm going to add some bonuses to you guys if you want to join the course. So let me just show you some of the bonuses. I can't tell you about all of them. I'm just going to tell you what they are, but they're super powerful, really cool things that'll help with your production. I've got my in key tool that keeps everything in key, and it's different than what I showed you guys, because in this way you could take a random part, make a clip out of it, and then you could literally push a button to change the key of that part. And the cool thing is, if you're making something to be in a certain key, that key actually has 4 other keys that harmonize with it. So you could literally make one random pattern with random notes, hit one button, it'll put it right into the key of your song. But then you've also got 2 or 3 other choices that you can use that will that you can play around with. So it just makes melodies on the spot. It's really, really cool. Kick machine, obviously, this is a great way to make kicks really, really quickly that are really powerful. You're basically, it's a tool that I created that layers a bunch of different aspects to a kick so that you could layer your own perfect kick every time. What am I doing here? All right, let's get it. Next, I'm going to share my vintage drum machines. There's like 70 different vintage drum machine kits, and I've got a couple other full kits with loads of sounds that I've also added to this kit as well. You know, because, you know, things like 808s and 909s, of course, they're in there and all, you know, but there's only like, what, 16 samples or something like that in those kits. There's others that are like full drum machines. So really, really cool stuff there. Stutter pads, just like it sounds, this is a tool that helps you stutter things in any pattern that you want super, super easily. And it's not just for pads. You can stutter vocals. You can stutter any part that you want to drag in, any sample that you want. So super, super cool. And then I have my bass machine, which, like the kick machine, gives you all kinds of different aspects to bass so that you could layer the perfect bass for your song really, really quickly and easily. All right. I use it myself. I use all these tools quite a bit, but kick machine, bass machine, and in key are loads of fun to use. The vintage drum machines is great when I want that certain vintage sample. Really, really fun stuff. Craig says, Ableton Live Suite comes with a ton of packs along with supply of synths. That is easily overwhelming. What do you recommend for approaching massive range of options? Well, this is exactly what the course gets into, Craig, is how to simplify things down and strip everything down to just a couple simple tools that are going to work best for you. And that's why we kind of go through what all the tools do. And then you could point to the ones that are most important for you to use. Doesn't mean that you don't ever use anything else, but you want to have your go-to. And this course will make it really, really easy for you to decide which are going to be best for you. Lifetime access, not only to the course, but to the private Facebook group. So you become part of a community of all my other students who have been through this path. So as you're going through this, there's students that have struggled where you struggled and got through it. So not only do you have direct access to me, but you have access to all the previous students as well. And then there is a 60-day direct access to me, right? So even after the course is done, you can still contact me if you have any questions, and we can, follow up in email, and I will absolutely make sure that you are getting where you need to go and finishing songs. All right. So you've also got my ironclad 60-day guarantee. Okay. Now here's the thing. I guarantee that 100% of the people will finish 100% of the songs they want 100% of the time if they follow my course as it's laid out 100%. So the 60-day guarantee just challenges you to take the course, do all the homework, and you're going to finish songs. If you don't, I will train you personally. I'll guide you personally until you do finish songs, or I'll refund your money plus $50 for your time. All you have to do is just do the work. There's just, I don't want tire kickers. That's why I don't put this course publicly on my page. I need to have spoken to you and explained this course and know if you're a fit for it. I only want the most dedicated people, as I spend time daily with every student, ensuring your success. Okay. So with all of this stuff added up, it's got a value. I think it's a fair value of $2,988. Now, some other corporate courses would probably charge much more for this sort of stuff. I wanted to be realistic with the total value. And, I'm not going to charge this much for you. But if I did, wouldn't it be worth it? If it gave you a kick in the butt and took your music to the next level and gave you that feeling of empowerment of taking something that's in your head and sharing it with the world, doing something that you love. There's a lot of things that you spend a good amount of money on. This, if it's your passion, isn't that worth it? I've certainly spent that much, if not way more, on my music tools, my music training, books, course, you name it, right? I already shared the testimonials, so I don't need to go through these. They're all really, really powerful testimonials though, but you can check those out in the link. Here's the deal. The training is $797. If you join today, I'll take $100 off that. And you're just going to use a coupon code EP30 now. Okay. So let me put this link in here real quick. EP30 buy. And then the coupon code is EP30 now. And you do want to use capitals on that. Okay. So do any of you guys have any questions? That is the offer. That's all I've got to say about it. I really appreciate you guys being here. So let's get to any questions that you guys have. I'm totally here for you. And the links are down there. If for some reason you don't see the links, let me know. And I will be happy to do that. Now, the last thing, because you made it this far. Oh, the link's to ODT file. All right. Well, delete that. I'll correct that right now. Sorry about that. Should have been right here. This is a PDF. Share. There's the link. Hopefully that's a PDF, Craig. Sorry about that. So, yeah, guys, do you have any questions for me? I will chill here and answer any music production questions you have. Anything that I can do for you guys, I'm happy to hang out. I appreciate you guys sticking around. And I'm super excited to have you guys inside to really see what it's like to experience what other students have experienced here. Last thing I'm going to do while we're going through this is I'm going to share, I promised that I would share my free training with you, a one-on-one session. I normally charge $200 minimum for a one-on-one session. I'm giving you guys a free 30-minute session for free. So all you have to do is, if you want, do you guys want a free session with me? Would you like to sit down with me one-on-one through either Facebook Messenger or Skype? Would that be cool? I'll wait for the latency. If that's cool with you guys, I'll share the link so that you guys can schedule a call with me. Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate that. Here is where you can book a free session with me. All you got to do is just fill out a quick form so I know a little bit more about you and your challenges, and then we can go from there. All right. This is that link. Stephen, you said you can't afford it right now, but would definitely be wanting to take the course in the new year. Well, here's the thing. You can either pay up front and get all the bonuses, or if you would like, you could break the payment down to 4 separate payments. So you'll just be charged monthly for payment, and you'll still get the $100 discount as well. You just don't get the bonuses. So let me know if that helps you, and you can actually hit me up personally if you would like, and I'll tell you all about that sort of stuff. If you're committed, here's the problem: is many people that say they can't afford something often are also not committed. And this is not a slight against you at all. It's just your commitment level is on par with the level of risk that you're willing to take in yourself. But yeah, I'm here in an apartment, and this helps pay for all of that. But, once again, I'm not rich, and I do go through, my own money issues. I mean, no matter who you are, you go through different things like that. And I personally hired coaches to help me through not only my financial, but all different aspects of my life. So I hired 2 life coaches for more money than I've ever spent. I spent $3,500 over 3 months, and I couldn't afford it, but I also couldn't afford not to, because I saw the trajectory of where I wanted to go and knew that they were the path for me to get there. In fact, tonight is my last training. So after I do this, I'm going to prepare for my final training with them, which, it's been really, really helpful. So I understand exactly where you're coming from, of not feeling like you can afford something. But sometimes you just have to kind of go for it and trust that the universe or God or whatever will kind of have your back if you lean into something. And of course, I hope you know that I would have your back as far as making sure you get the results that you want. So if any of this is interesting to you, Stephen, and if you're really serious about wanting to do this, hit me up privately and we'll talk about it. Are there any other questions? And by the way, I want to the people who have joined, I want to say awesome and welcome. We're going to have a really, really great time inside. It's going to be a lot of fun too. My goal is to put the fun back into making music. And when it's simple and straightforward and you have a process, then it becomes fun again. Then you can relax your mind. I've really enjoyed sharing this with you guys. And, I just hope that you can find a way to make this happen for yourself if you have the commitment level of wanting to really do this and wanting to make this happen for yourself. And if not, that's totally fine. Everyone is where they are at and where they want to be. Every action you've taken has put you where you are now. And if you're really happy with that, then you don't really need to take much more action. Or if you're already there where you want to be, then just enjoy that and move forward. There's really no wrong answer. It's just for people who believe something like this is the right answer. I really want to encourage you to, face that fear of doing it and just jump off that ledge, because we're going to have a great time. I've got your back. I've been where you're at. I've been where you're at, technically, financially, you name it. I've been there. So I'm here to help. Okay. With that, guys, I think I've given you all the information. Once again, the link to schedule your free 30-minute session with me is in there. It's just a quick application, and just fill that out, and then we'll have a chat. With that, there will be a link so that you could actually schedule our call for when works for you. Okay, so we've got all that set up. So the book, it's in there. So download the book, read it. I hope you get a lot out of it. Schedule a session with me so we can talk one-on-one, and I can help you directly. And join this master course. January 2nd, we get started. It's a fantastic community, and I would just love to have you inside. With that, guys, it looks like we don't have any more questions. So I am going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for spending the time with me. And if you got any questions, you can hit me up in Messenger. I'm Jason Timothy. You can find Jason Timothy, or you can text me or message me through this page as well. Okay? Take care, guys. Thanks so much. Have a fantastic one. Bye.
moment here to appreciate Jason Timothy. He's a music teacher, an electronic music teacher. He teaches people how to make music with Ableton and with all the Ableton tools, and how to finish music, how to actually reach your music goals in music production. He does a lot of free stuff too, like podcasts and YouTube videos. And I've been loving his podcasts lately so much. I just heard the one about signing your tracks to record labels, digital record labels, and it blew my mind. I agree with everything that he said. More about creating a relationship with the people in the record label than trying to be like, hey, I'm a producer, sign my track. So I'm gonna link Jason Timothy in there. And if you don't know him and you're in the music business, check him out because he's awesome. He's awesome. Jason Timothy, you inspired me to actually start putting myself out there more. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is John Bookout. I am just here to kind of talk a little bit about the EP 30-day course that Jason Ward is doing online. My friend Josh Spencer, he was doing production a little bit before me, and I'd just been DJing, well, for several years, but was ready to kind of get started. So yeah, he said, yeah, take this 30-day course with me, let's do it. And I was like, all right, sweet, let's do this. And I got into it, and before doing the course, I had just a little bit of dabbling in Ableton and knew some things that made the whole DAW work, but I didn't know how everything really integrated together to make a song. And so when I started, we just basically went through step by step, you know, how things work, what they really did, and to go in and really start dabbling with them and playing with them to understand what they do and how they affect sound and everything. So getting started with it, it was a little bit challenging, but it was great to have Jason kind of at my fingertips for any questions I had about anything. I would just start going, and he actually had to kind of hold me back a little bit, because I kept on trying to jump ahead, but in the long run it was the best thing because I really got a solid basis for, you know, all those basics that you need to be able to make music. So throughout the course, you know, it was kind of intense certain days, and some things I didn't understand, and if I had any questions I just came and asked him, and he was right there to help me, which was awesome. It was actually like kind of exactly what I needed, is a little bit of a mentor to keep me understanding like how things flow as you go. So I was able to make 3 EPs in 1 month, and it was, you know, it was good. It was really good. It was a really awesome, creative, and you know, there was a little bit of pressure, you know, to get it done, because you have to kind of tell him what you want to do, and then he kind of holds you to it. So so when I said 3 EPs, I was like, okay, gotta get it done. And so that really motivated me to kind of learn everything as fast as I could, and to kind of whip those out. And now I feel like I can get around Ableton, and I understand all the functions of everything, and I could sit down and start making a song whenever I wanted to, with at least the basics. So it was totally worth it. And I suggest, you know, if you're thinking about taking this course, that you know, it's a good thing, and I think it's well worth it. And he's really great at helping you understand where you are as a producer, and you know, you can come in from any you know, any level really, and just say, okay, let's get started on a creative process, and he can meet you where that is. So I highly suggest it. Yeah, check it out. Jason Ward, 30-day EP class. It's awesome. All right, peace out.
Noble, and I've been asked by Jason just to have a quick word with you regarding your 30-day course that's on the horizon. Excuse me, because I'm not used to being on video, so this is just literally coming from the heart. My background is I've always loved music, never really committed to it or known how to. Always had the empathy, the drive, the passion for it, having DJed for years, on and off. But to be honest, music and the idea of being a producer or getting into production has always kind of frightened me, put me off, or I've also always allowed for life and work to always get in the way. Hand on heart, I can honestly say that pound for pound or dollar for dollar or whatever currency you actually use in your country, this is the course for you. I've looked long and hard at all the others. There's loads of other stuff out there, obviously, but Jason is your man. His course is proven without question to get results for you. All right. As I say, this is not rehearsed, so just bear with me on this. All right, guys. But literally, I used to just be a hobbyist with it, mess about with sounds, samples, this and that. Didn't get anywhere with it. I'd always have a great idea, didn't know what to do with it. But again, like hand on heart, can't stress this enough. If you follow his course exactly to the letter, day by day, all right, if you might slip a couple of days or whatever, regain them, get it back. But if you follow this and the chart, all the information that he provides you, you will guaranteed finish tracks. If you don't finish tracks, it's basically because it's your fault. And I don't mean that harsh, because I've done it. You'll be so passionate about something and you think, yeah, this is going great, this is going great. And you'll come home late from work or something, or you just had a naff day, or your missus' family commitments, whatever. It'll get in the way of your routine. The biggest thing you've got to do is get in the routine that Jason will give you the foundations for. If you practice or have a creative process every day, whether it's for 30 minutes up to an hour, after you've done these 90-minute sessions per day for these 30 days, you'll have it nailed pretty much. Okay, you won't have every skill set in the book for doing music production, but you will get there. And once you finish one track, it's all about the confidence. Say, I'm not confident in front of you guys right now, but having finished a couple of tracks, it's the same thing as like running a marathon, or I don't know, whatever else, your hardest day at work, something. You've got to somehow break through that wall. It'll hold you back, you'll get anxious, you'll think you're rubbish sometimes, you'll think you just can't do it. But each time you get over a hurdle, and Jason is always there to back you up, give you extra advice. Once you've got through it, you'll wonder why you were even worried about it, and it's gone, and you move on to something else, and your skill set will grow and grow and grow. I committed to myself that I wanted to dedicate my life to try and actually give this one final punch. I'm 37 now, and I've always loved music and never thought I'd be able to do it, but knew I had the heart to do it. I dedicated myself to doing this from New Year 2016. Done Jason's course, followed it to the letter, and proof of the pudding, having finished a couple of tracks, I put them out there, and this week being, well, we are last week of June, I've actually got signed to a label. Cannot believe it. This is my first major release that's going to go out there. It's going to feature on Beatport, it's going to be on Traxsource, it's going to go on iTunes and all the others as well, those being the main ones. And how have I managed to do it? Because of Jason's course. 30 days, you're going to go for it for 19 days solid, get yourself in this habit, and then you'll have the the remainder of the month, to finish the course, finish those tracks. Even if you get one done, don't pressure yourself. Just go for the next one. This is a long journey, as I'm fully aware of, and my feet are firmly still on the ground. But as I say, I can't stress this enough. This 30-day course is the start of your musical journey into music production. And the only person that will stop you from getting it and making it happen is yourself. Go for it. Don't think about it. Head first. Get in there. Start making music with Jason and join us lot on his page and his community that he's building. And hopefully I'll see you out there. As I say, thanks very much for time. Sorry for it if I've rambled on a bit, but this is for Jason because I can't thank him enough for everything he's done for me following my dream, little steps closer to actually doing more and more production in my life. So thanks, Jason, and I hope to see you guys out there. And as I say, my name's Danny Noble, and I'll see you on the course. Cheers now. Bye-bye.